Thank you, guys. I am joined by 3 of the victorious members of TSM, Bjergsen, WildTurtle, and Santorin. So first off, guys, congratulations. Moving on to the finals yet again. You've made it there every time that TSM has been a part of the LCS, so every finals. First thing I want to touch on, Bjergsen, is that Jap mentioned he spoke to Loco Doco, and Loco said he expected it to be a 3-1 with you guys losing the first game. That ended up being the case. Can you offer any insight as to why that is?
It doesn't really surprise me because in the past, other than the IEM finals that we played against World Elite, even against the Yoi Flash Wolves in the semifinals there, we lose the first game and then we go on to win. It's just kind of like a TSM thing where sometimes we just don't show up in the first game. Sometimes we're trying to scout like what picks are going to play. We pick a little bit differently, see what kind of champions they're playing. And so I understand why Loco would think like that. And I think today it wasn't really something with picks. It was just we didn't show up in the first game. WildTurtle,
that speaks, though, to your guys' ability to adapt in best-of-5 series. And if you're expecting or admitting that it's possible that you will lose the first game, to your confidence when you move into a best-of-5, saying we can go down a game, but so easily you guys have that mentality that you can turn it around and adapt.
I think all of us have a pretty good mentality. Like when we lose, we just don't like linger on for that game that we just lost. Like we just try to move forward and try our best to like keep playing forward.
And Santorin, I got to look at this jungle matchup because we saw in that first game an immense amount of pressure coming at you, specifically with the double smite along with the consume, and it definitely seemed to, shake the game up a little bit. You transitioned into Gragas in the next few games, and you started to turn all of that around. Zyrene mentioned on the broadcast that he had spoken to you about how you do your best to visualize Rush's jungle routes and be able to cut him off. How is this matchup and your experience with Rush today going to play into going up against Meteos, one of the other top junglers in NA, coming into the finals?
So Meteos and Rush, they have like completely different playstyles. Like Meteos plays all the Cinderhawk champions just like I do. Like for example, TiP always bans Johnny against us, and that's also a champion that I don't expect C9 to ban. So I feel like it's going to be a completely different matchup, and I feel like Gragas was just the best champion against Rush's champ pool because he only plays aggressive champs, and I think Gragas like beats Lee Sin and all the other champs that he plays. So I just feel like taking Gragas would just like win us the early game, and also Gragas outscale. So I just feel like because we can like mitigate the Lee Sin early game, then I just feel like we're gonna win.
To the point of champions and Gragas being a strong one, we were talking a lot on the desk about the champion select that was put forth by Impulse. A bit confused by the Cassiopeia ban, mostly because when TF was left open in the second game, they didn't go for it. They hovered it and didn't end up locking in. Bjergsen, I just kind of want to get your take on the mid lane matchup this time through, because you had to play 4 different champions, and Xiaowei Zhao, you guys applied so much pressure. Santorin, you visited so often in the mid lane and really did work to keep him down.
It really just depends on the matchups. When you're against a Twisted Fate, if you put all your pressure on the side lanes, TF will be able to assist him with his teleport. So after TF gets level 6, it's really important that we put so much pressure on the mid and we constantly keep him down, make sure he can't get outside the lane. I think for the Cassio ban, it's a champion I've played before in the LCS, I think once or twice, but it's very high priority in regions like Korea. So when they have Russian Impact, they probably watch a lot of the LCK, and they probably see Cassio as a really high priority pick. And maybe some of the champions that they were planning on playing has a hard time against it. So
now let's push forward into the C9 matchup where you're against Hai, who's known for having a slightly shallower champion pool. Might not give you as much trouble in terms of needing to know as many matchups there in the mid lane. How confident are you going into that mid lane?
I think I'm pretty confident. Not that I'm just going to beat Hai, but because I know a lot of the things he plays. We've been scrimming C9 for the last 2 weeks, I believe, and I think we have a pretty good grasp on like their play style and their champion pool. So I definitely feel like it's a little bit less of like a wild card where I feel like Wei Zhao will pull out anything, anytime, and I never really know what I can blind because he can always pick some weird counter. Like he'll play Yasuo, he's willing to play anything, and I feel like Hai's a bit more reserved and he has a champion pool that he plays, and it'll be easier for us to prepare for it.
So we did have the opportunity to see you counterpick 3 times being on red side there in a row. WildTurtle, can you offer any insight as to why the team opted to choose red side in that third game, not in the first and fifth, even though we didn't get to the fifth?
We wanted red side because we got the counterpick mid, and if they're on blue, we get to see 4 of their picks too. So it really helps us getting the last pick for mid or like anything. So just having, I think like having 2 picks over 1 on purple is like pretty beneficial too, because if they take, let's say Lulu, we can take like Maokai and like Gragas or like a priority pick. I just feel like purple is a lot better because the more priority picks we can get.
All right, Bjergsen, you like to jump in on that?
It's also because when TiP played against Gravity, they picked purple side, and we wanted to make sure we weren't going to have all 5 blue side because maybe they had some really good preparation for that. So it was also kind of a security that if they pick all purple side, we still have one purple side game because we have a lot of strategies on purple side and a lot of purple side pick ban that we wouldn't be able to pull out if you were 5 blue, obviously.
Doing your homework there. That's nice to see. WildTurtle, back to you, because we had Doublelist on the desk today, and he was talking about the state of 80 carries in the game right now, being relegated to more utility-type champions unless the team is going to invest every single resource into you as a hyper carry Kog'Maws or something like that. So I just kind of want to get your take on how you fit into TSM now with this meta as it's evolving.
I would say, yeah, it's kind of more of a utility-based role now. You just kind of sit back, farm until you get like 2-3 items, and then you start saying, okay, I'm kind of strong now, maybe we can team fight now. And then that's basically how my role is right now. And I think for TSM, it works pretty well because usually we just do, like, our playstyle can go like mid, top, or bot. And I feel like if we play independent bot, we just outscale the other bot lane because our top laner and mid laner is so versatile. So we just, like, after we go even bot, they just help us with their lead.
And when it comes to you and LessBoy in the bot lane, I want to look at how you guys feel about lane swaps, because as we know, C9 can play those very well and likes them quite a bit. So we saw LessBoy actually pull out the Nautilus level 1 invade, keep him from double jungling on the other side. Was that something he picked up from Lemonation 1? But how comfortable are you and him in those 1v2s that you'll come out on top?
We've been scrimming C9, so we do that to each other pretty oftenly. So like we know, like, I think our 2v1 and C9's 2v1 are pretty similar right now, so it's just whoever plays it better right now.
All right, Santorin, when we look ahead to that C9 TSM matchup, this is a finals that we've seen before. And as Bjergsen just mentioned, you guys have been scrimming each other for the past 2 weeks because you're on opposite sides of the bracket. Well, now you have to play against each other. So does this mean that it's back to the drawing board and you guys have to come up with a whole slew of new strategies that you haven't been showing them in scrims for the past 2 weeks?
I feel like we still want to keep the same strategies and stuff. Like, we'll obviously get a new one too, of 2 or 3, but also maybe we'll pick up a new champion or something like that because they will not know about that champion, because right now we both know each other's champion pool. We know how they play. We know lane swap. So it's definitely going to be like who plays the better that day, because we both, like, we play really well.
All right, finally, Bjergsen, I want to ask you, C9 TSM, last time we saw this summer finals, we're seeing it again. However, it could be said that you guys were the underdogs going into the summer finals last season, being 1 seed lower, essentially. What is the difference between this TSM now and the TSM that went into the finals last summer?
I think one of the major things is definitely that LessBoy and Turtle have been playing for a lot longer. LessBoy is a lot better integrated into the team. He speaks a lot better English now, so the in-game communication is better. We have 2 analysts working with us. They're also in the house right now. So I feel like our prep is better. Our overall team communication is just better. And I think just we needed more time as a team. We just had roster changes in that split. So we were picking up what kind of play style we're going to play, what lanes are we going to playing to. And I think now we're a much more well-rounded team.
Well, the infrastructure is there. We'll see if it manifests with another victory this year. I want to congratulate you on this victory here in this series, qualifying for finals again, and thank you for being on the desk with me. Now, for some final thoughts on the series, let's check in with our guys on the caster desk.